Trump's 2025 power moves are reshaping the world, and here's the great parts, and here's the fallout from them. I want to remind you to like and subscribe so I can deliver this content right to your inbox. I deliver on a daily basis, and once again, your likes, your subscribes matters to the YouTube algorithm, and most of all, your comments really do speak to our audience. Let's continue. Oh, and by the way, every time you hit like, subscribe, and leave a comment, you help me feed Charlie, and Charlie loves to be fed, trust me. So power is being shifted in 2025, and not just on paper, and it's not just like shuffling cards. Jobs are being cut, allies are walking away, and inside the U.S., even some Republicans are quietly starting to question how far this really goes. This week, we've seen the clearest sign yet that Trump's second-term agenda isn't about slogans anymore. It's about restructuring the very institutions that hold government, diplomacy, and the economy together. So today we're tackling the ripple effects of Trump's latest power moves and who's really paying the price. And you'll find out it's all social classes, that's for sure. So the first part is talking about the shrinking State Department. And the State Department really is the policy experts about foreign affairs and foreign nations. And I'll remind you that in history, big time hits to the State Department have caused some serious problems. For instance, if you go back in history, there was the McCarthy period. Remember the witch trials, everyone being accused of communism, and as a result, the State Department was cleared out. And the consequence was that we, as a nation, wind up entering both the Korean War and not too soon thereafter, the Vietnam War. Why? Because some of the policy experts that were there were no longer there to advise, and they were no longer there to advise. The country misstepped its way into a couple of situations. Korea, I get it. Vietnam, maybe there was a better way to handle that situation. I'll ask you, because some of you are actually viewers who remember very well that Vietnam era. Can you relate? So back to the State Department, and Marco Rubio just announced a sweeping overhaul, eliminating 700 positions and shuffling down to 132 offices. He called it a move to shrink a bloated bureaucracy. But among the cuts, the Undersecretary of Civilian Security, Democracy, and Human Rights, a post once central to U.S. foreign policy. That isn't just trimming fat, really. It's reshaping the American priorities. And it raises a question, when you shrink the government, what values are you shrinking with it? Great question. So meanwhile, the Washington, D.C. area is going to lose 40,000 jobs. That's major, no matter where you are in the country. And I realize many of those are government jobs per se, and maybe they are part of the bloated bureaucracy, the democracy we have, and maybe many of these jobs are seen as very downsizable. But let's dig a little bit deeper. Economists say this could push DC into a recession. Sound crazy? That DC, the place where all the spending and where all the action takes place, could be put into a recession? Well, hear me out. Something that hasn't happened on this scale, seriously, like for decades. But think about it. Even the power center of the country is being economically hollowed out by its own government. And this is before the full effects of the new tax shifts, trade policies. There are some emerging cracks within the GOP that I think are really worth following, because remember, midterm elections aren't that far off, and there's a portion of these people inside the House in particular that need to go home and they need to run a campaign. And the question is, how are the people back home going to receive these GOP House members? And are there counterattacks in various elections that are going to be launched to take these people out? That's a great story to pay attention to, because here's where things really get kind of interesting. Most Republican lawmakers have stayed silent on this. Why? Because, well, there's an election to be had and nobody wants to be anti-Trump. but they also don't want to get voted out of office. But there is one guy who's very outspoken. His name is Rand Paul. Paul is pushing back, calling out Trump's use of emergency powers to impose tariffs. Paul says tariffs should be controlled by Congress and not dictated by the executive branch of government. And Paul was just one of 2 GOP senators to vote against the budget framework that underpins Trump's tax cuts. Translation, even inside Trump's party, the stress fractures are growing because big changes are taking place. But there's another piece of this equation, and that's the global fallout in places like Ukraine, China, and the market. Globally, the tension fallout in Ukraine, China, and global markets is really a very, very interesting story to follow as well. Global fallout, like in the Ukraine, China, and the markets, they're very real. Check this out. So globally, the tension is real. Zelensky just rejected a U.S. proposal to recognize Russia's control of Crimea in exchange for a ceasefire. He called it unconstitutional. China, tentatively re-engaging in trade talks, yes, but the IMF is warning that a global slowdown is really starting to settle in. And back in the U.S., Trump now says he has no plans to fire Fed Chair Jerome Powell, but has publicly mocked him on social media just days earlier. Back in the U.S., now Donald Trump says he does not have any plans to fire Jerome Powell. However, you can definitely say that Trump has given the federal chairman a public flogging on social media. And that's kind of dirty play, right? Or maybe it's Trump's way of doing business. I'll let you decide. I'd like us to dial in a little bit on the elites, because the elites do hold a particular position. They do hold particular access to the president. They hold particular wealth and influence as well in society. So let's check out a couple of these things that are also playing out in politics and news this week. For instance, Elon Musk says he's stepping back from government work to refocus on Tesla after a brutal quarter and profits down like 71%. RFK Jr. is really taking up his own cultural territory inside the Trump administration. Remember, the goal is to get America healthy again. And part of getting America healthy again is taking a look at some of the additives and preservatives inside of our food supply. For instance, think about some of the different dyes that are in there, for instance. These are the things that either cause ADHD or are linked to cancer. And we know for sure that that means big impact on big business. I don't know if Trump wants to create problems at this point in time with more enemies inside of his administration. So in short, the political class is moving, the economic class is getting kind of nervous, and the power class, they're simply repositioning. So leave comments below, because your insights, So leave your comments below, because your insights really matter, because the bottom line is, what all does this mean? And Trump's second term is no longer hypothetical. It's materializing. It flings, it restructures, it pushes back, and there are real world consequences taking place. If you're feeling the shifts, you're not imagining it. This isn't just politics anymore. It's policy, it's power, and it's personal. Drop a comment. I respond to every single comment out there. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, so I can deliver to you every single day in your inbox. Remember, the biggest battle we're fighting is the one between our ears. Stay healthy and celebrate your victories.